compromise. I'm on Esoteric Principles of Light, where I would end up having like 5 to 30 people on this live. And I don't want to feel the pressure of people asking me questions like, what is this? What are you talking about? And then I get a few people subbing that are interested, but the subject that I talk about is too pervasive. It's ubiquitous and abstract. To most people, it makes 0 sense. But it's making, the alarming aspect is it's making sense to more and more people all the time. Right? Aliens. I was watching something last night. Let's say under the subtext of aliens. And that, there's this postulation that we're the aliens. It's based on something that has been alluded to. I don't know if it's true or not, but Jimmy Carter, he supposedly broke out in tears being such a Christian man. Such a Christian man. When he had read a briefing that he supposedly demanded information on said subject. And that supposedly that's the very few things that he's ever talked about. And then you can look it up, but there's others who have alluded that this truth that we come down to fundamentally when we really find out what's going on, it's kind of like looking at it could be likened to looking at that weird container in Pulp Fiction. It becomes an undeniable reality, a realization. So, gets back into Nathaniel Gillis's work. What doesn't, but why use Nathaniel Gillis as a reference? Because he's posturing himself, under the guise of something very potentially malicious. He uses terms like guide when he's talking about other authors, other people who've spoken about the friendly aspect of this. I think he knows full well that he's probably not a friendly and an unfriendly side, but there's just a posturing side, corral posture control. If you don't know, if you know you're not in the right place and you know that the right things haven't been happening to you, but that your consciousness itself is something that's under attack, and you've known that your whole life, like I have, and then you don't even know who you are, and you're supposed to have an existential crisis, but you don't know who you are in the sense of just who you are at a deep fundamental level. Right? You have the feeling, but you realize that deep intrinsic feeling of the soul is actually what's being challenged, that you're being called out for it, and that it is dangerous. And you think, why is it dangerous? More to the point is, why is consciousness and awareness dangerous? And the main issue that's left out in this entire area is, well, aliens aren't pervos, but demons are. In other words, there is a highly sexual component to demonic. I wouldn't even call it exchange. I think what they want us to think is that it's an exchange. So if you kind of put these two together, right, and you say there is a hegemony or an assumed hierarchical order occurring, where these things assume and have assumed a superiority. But let's postulate and let's say that, so this is an analogy that I like to use a lot. How many people like to get on the outside of their car while it's driving 80 miles an hour down the freeway? Well, what about a planet that's spinning over on 950 miles per hour? Why would you get on the outside of that? Why would you posture yourself on the outside of that? Why wouldn't you dig underground and create intricate labyrinths? And people have. Under Paris, I believe, that's something that's not really talked about. Perhaps the pyramids were just an entrance into the inner earth, right? Protecting an entrance into the inner earth that had been covered up and covered over. And it would make more sense that you would have these depots all around the world of when the shit hits the fan, for all those in the future, when those motherfuckers come back, when there's too many bugs on the outside of the Honda. If you were to view us more like wild locusts, complete and total pests, that so the whole thing is, these things living on the inside of the earth make a lot of sense. Keeping us in a primitive state makes sense in the sense that, what if we're incapable of further evolution? I don't believe, but what if we're incapable of true higher mind pursuits? Like what if we're not that important to the agenda, or any agenda for that matter? It would make sense that genetic modifications would be done Well, what is our production value? We have to produce something, right? Is it a smoke screen? That would be something, right? If human beings, or what's postulated as the human being, was used as a smoke screen to make it appear like nothing else lives here. At first glance, oh, there's 8 billion motherfuckers here. Let's keep going. Especially if you were wanted. Right? Especially if you were hiding for the long. You see, we get very involved in sci-fi aspersions. So with clothes on, we're down to 164 on the after 2 full days. Had cheese last night. Had 12 drumsticks yesterday, big drumsticks, and I should be down another pound or two tomorrow because of the glycogen. And these burgers are good, practically burned. So I'm going to turn that way up. I can't help but notice a very troubled countenance, disposition, in reference to Robert Bigelow, and others. They simply don't want to tackle this subject, and I feel that also that quite the contrary. The government has known that it's been an extremely important agenda, and that there is in fact a cult based around I'm not going to create any problems and don't really give a shit cult. Right? Like, I ain't going to create no problems. I'm just an idiot leading a bunch of idiots. Kind of like if you were told, well, we're here, you're our smokescreen, we keep you alive only as a smokescreen. Most people would be like, I don't buy that. That's just not enough. Like, did you ever think that whatever might be seeking these things out and whatever smokescreen might be occurring, there might also be a very heavy subject of a very peaceful search party, right? That they're not going to decimate completely innocent, ignorant, undeveloped life forms from their course, even though there isn't just a course, even there is no innocence. Right? So let's throw ignorance out the door. Let's throw any ignorance out the door. Let's say that the all mind is pervasive, that no one can hide from anything. That in itself is a ridiculous notion. Even though if you take everything into consideration, it makes sense. But let's throw that out. You're still left with demons. It's like Tartarian Empire and a potential 1,000-year gap that's missing. And the fact that such fantasies such as Alexander the Great and Napoleon conquested the world together. And it's like, well, let's not take that seriously. Like, when you look at world history, it's like, that's ridiculous. Even if you don't know much about it, and then you hear, Russian history, you have to come down to the fundamental fact that there isn't video footage. And there very well could have been video footage. And there should have been video footage of some sort, because there always should have been the technology, right? Because once information enters into the field, it's in the field. I've always been angry, and I'm sure that anyone watching this would be, in the fact that, wow, who I should be, what I should be, what any conscious living being should be, if we had available the technology that was afforded us, that was given us, that we earned. My gosh, what a different reality there would be. But there would be different agendas. We would be aligned with what we truly want and desire. And I mean, look at people. Kind of sort of justifies the Rosicrucian, right? The Rosicrucian outlook. Makes all this cryptic bullshit seem like it maybe has a meaning, and why we're always searching for meaning. But why all the hoops? Why all the bullshit? Why all the vetting, the validation? Either you're speaking truth or you're not speaking truth. You know? I think that's plenty. And the reason truth is so subjective is because of what I just talked about. It's like you're speaking truth, but based on what you know. And unfortunately, all you know is a lie, and therefore you're speaking the truth within a lie. You're speaking the truth of a lie. How many times has this happened? When you remove time from the equation, it seems like the awareness of time is a very important task. It also seems really important that we believe in something called space, and that when we're posturing anything, we're thinking about black emptiness all around, planets that look decimated, and that's going to have a heavy theme correlation. We're not even going to add cheese. I was going to, but we had enough cheese last night. Mm. I would say that almost warrants a second cup of coffee. Let's take some vitamin D with that. I'm not even thinking. I'm not even awake and aware. I'm not up, awake, and aware yet. Because I irrefutably have to go into personal experience. I have to combine personal experience. And that's where things, with what I'm talking about, and that's when things get freaky. It's like, you've had anything but a normal life. So this is allulose. You're going to have more. Like, what if that was sugar? There'd be a lot of sugar, right? Well, that's what I'm adding in here. And scoop for scoop, it's the same. It tastes like sugar. And I need that. I want that. I want to have some refuge. Because I'm going to tell you, consciousness is a threat to them. This idea that we being conscious, or more so, somebody said a really good point. It was Colonel Alexander. Again, I'm not even thinking yet. Edwards. It's been in a lot of interviews, but Sean Ryan just did one, and I think he's putting it on his private membership area. But he also has Joe McGonigal. I think I pronounced that right. The first remote viewer. There's a gullibility aspect to us all. Let's taste it and see how sweet it is. Oh yeah, that tastes just like sugar, and it tastes like ice cream. There's a gullibility aspect to us all, but there's more of a training aspect to certain people. And hearing Joe McGonigal, apologize if I'm getting the name pronunciation wrong. Of course, that's male. And that's my allulose coffee. He lays out how utterly poor he was. We're taught compartmentalization, separation, separate thinking, posturing based on separation. I'm having to get something really tasty and good in before I do any exercise. I haven't been sleeping very well. I've got a huge phone bill that $310 phone bill. Got to come up with at least $159 just to keep the damn thing on. Or it'll be shut off in 6 days. I was expecting a payout to come year after year, month after month. And it hasn't come. So I just keep walking over 10 miles a day. I stay really diligent on my diet. I get leaner all the time, but it's never fast enough. I very much appreciate it. You get sick of thinking about God because you realize most of the literature is going to write themselves in as God. Like Anunnaki, those who visit from the sky, from above, like the sky people. And a parallel running reality. What if, again, what if we're the aliens? What if there's no difference between aliens and demons? What if the human body was created to subvert a flood of said demons that would otherwise be haunting space and time like a flood of despair raining upon planets? Say we reached this high level of sophistication to the point where annihilation had to take place. It fits. And not only our decimation, that is mostly annihilation, but the fact that we would have to be erased from the field. And that even if an extremely superior intelligence knew how to do that, it would also understand that a complete and total reset, not just an earthly reset, but a wiping away would have to occur. And even then, you can't erase the eras, right? The aeons. Those who get closest to the truth we're the bad guys. I'm eating a hamburger right now, made from a dead cow, talking about an extremely riveting subject. And with any conviction, I should be shaking as I talk about this. That's how deep the gaslighting What if the DNA in my very body hails back to an original source humanoid that only from an animalistic sense knew peace and harmony and tranquility? It knew no violence for violence sake. Like, you can come into an idea, but then you have other aspects to yourself. You're not just a one-sided singular figure. There are many personalities. You ever think about that? How oddly fit who we are, our awareness is. So again, I believe that the studies and the research that were done specifically around sexuality, and number one, to not assume sexuality as a universal concept, particularly male and female. But that the female is the hormone-driven biological prompt toward validation of sexuality as a course, intercourse, as right. But that doesn't exist when you remove all emotion. When corporeal needs, wants, needs, and desires are 100% not involved on any scale with consciousness. Then you're able to look at purity for purity's sake, under the scope of purity. And to see that same want, like, in essence, you look at someone who's a fascist leader, you look at someone who proclaims to want to lead, they're getting like Trump, he's getting sexual gratification. If you could really see it. That on this planet, people are putting their sexual selves first, right? And that's why things have to be discussed in a passionless sort of way. And there seems to be a loophole from a more secular sense that of science and scientific thought and application. It's like, if there is anything that's salvageable about anyone, it's the scientific focus to rationalistically approach from an, like, I hate to even use the term epistemological approach, but it's like systems. Can we talk about systems without pissing Nietzsche off? Could we take Michel Foucault's work and interpretation of Nietzsche, like Michael Segru says, like, if you were to really take Nietzsche's works quite literally, like literalist point of view, you would see Michel Foucault as Nietzsche's son, Nietzsche's offspring. He's saying the soul is the problem. And then you might laugh and go, that's ridiculous. And when you really think about it, you're like, what if the soul was invasive? What if it was known that you are the demon, right? And that keeping you busy is of the utmost importance. That this 8 billion, this horde of 8 billion and everything, imagine all the souls circulating around that are waiting their turn, right? Why the samsara? It's like, that's not God who created that. It might as well be God because it's saving you from yourself, but it's saving itself from you, right? And that if you don't forget yourself and you're not kept busy, you ain't up to good. Let me ask you, are you happy with meditating, peace, harmony, ringing a bell in the morning and letting that octave tone sink into you and ring in the back of your head to where you become the radiating resonant aspect of that peaceful vibration without having any disturbance, right? Human beings pollute one another, they pollute themselves. Once they come together, they don't come together in harmony. Monks, Buddhist monks in certain parts of the world have tested for methamphetamine to where everyone in the entire what is it, flock, clergy, I don't know, order, had to get thrown out of the monastery. This is, I put a link to this way down, like a couple years ago, year and a half ago. People's ambitions aren't trustworthy. People's true intentions aren't trustworthy or noble or anything else. People want, the first thing people want to do is work their way through nobility, and then it's like, well, imagine what more I could do. And then the other side is juggling, the ambitious side. It's thinking about tactically what's in the way. And surely, are you going to allow this rampant computer program to actually go through the process of, like, why do you think samsara exists? So you put on your big boy britches and you realize this, all this, and you could be pissed off thinking, well, now I'm polluted and there's no reason to even go on. Like, it has to be perfect. And it's like, nothing's perfect, and the foulest atrocities that can be imagined, we've all committed those, right? We've all been that motherfucker. And the way through or out is through, and the way through is through. That you're not going to be able to escape from who you really are. Or forget, and that's not the remedy. remedy here is to deal with the perversion, to deal with the ugliness, and to realize that extreme, on any level, extreme elation, extreme happiness has to be avoided. We like to, if you were to look at happy music, if you were to interpret happy music would drive you nuts. Like if you were to say, hey, Siri, one day, or hey, Chat GPT, 10.0, can you produce the most ultimate happy music? It would sound like shrieking in our ears. We wouldn't like it because we're aware, just like the term samsara, it's sorrowful. It's like reality is sorrowful. But we walk with a heavy heart, a heavy chest, a heavy mind. That consciousness itself has to realize itself. And when you look at animals, it keeps us on the shallow end of the water. We do seek total enlightenment. We do think that we are entitled to that. We don't understand how consciousness can be compartmentalized. And it's like, that's a pretty complex process. If you've got these things that are both seen and recognized, not only as demons, not only as aliens, not only as angels, not only as so-called God or gods throughout antiquity, the only reason that they would ever be seen, and nothing's by accident, right? There are no errors, there are no flaws, is to see, now how do you deal with that? And to know people, consciousness so well that it's not even the study of technology that the pursuit was long ago, but it was the understanding of understanding, the understanding of consciousness and how consciousness works on all levels. Therefore, to see that you pre-thought a step. You build up the concoction to allow yourself to feel something that will prompt a thought. That in itself is a contingent preemptive strike. Like, it comes down to the subtle nuances to where some people can almost be trusted, right? So an executive order, an executive process has to be recognized. Like, the computer has to be able to answer with total certainty, yeah, most of me is filled with utter bullshit. And the true aspects that are blissful, right, don't take up a lot of room. And the on-running program is mostly filled with sorrow. And it's not, at the end of it all, it's not true bliss, but it's release that we seek. Release from samsara, but more than that, release from existence and individuation, knowing that individuality is carrying this secret, and being a member of these clandestine organizations on your back, like those with the least power, are seen as the most dangerous. How many lifetimes? How many reincarnations? I'm still breaking my way through. Because it also wouldn't take long for the guards, especially throughout the concept of eternity, to become completely corrupt themselves.